Good morning, everyone, and welcome to More Brewing, Less Spreadsheets, Tools to Let You Focus on Growing Your Brewery, presented by Hein & Associates. We are pleased to offer complimentary webinars each month that cover a wide range of finance and accounting topics. I'm Stephanie Johnson, your moderator and webinar organizer today. Before we start, let's take a moment to cover a few housekeeping items. All audio lines are muted. Please use our chat feature to ask questions. We will save time at the end for Q&A. This webinar is being recorded. A copy of the webinar presentation and recording will be sent out to all registrants later today. Your active participation is important throughout the session. In order to receive CPE credit for this session, you will need to be connected for a minimum of 50 minutes and must answer 75% of the polling questions included throughout the presentation. Immediately following this webinar, you will be directed to an online evaluation form that must be submitted in order to receive your CPE certificate for the course. Please check your inbox later today for a follow-up email that will include a link to the evaluation as well. Our presenters today are Mike Parker, Principal, and Brandon Warner, Managing Consultant, both in our Denver office. Mike joined Hein & Associates in 2017 as a Principal and National Leader of the firm's Technology and Management Consulting practice. With over 25 years of diverse experience across energy, technology, manufacturing, communications, healthcare, and service industries in the ERP, HCM, and enterprise software markets, Mike brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our customers and our practice. Brandon is the Barrel ERP product lead at Hein and joined Hein directly from NetSuite, where he was a solution architect. Brandon brings 15+ years in the manufacturing, distribution, and warehousing industry and has a proven track record of helping customers in these industries implement best practices that drive operational improvements. Thank you so much for attending today, and I would now like to introduce Mike Parker and Brandon Warner. We're going to start with the first poll question. What is your role in the brewery? Sales, finance, brewing operations, warehousing, distribution operations? We'll give you a moment to answer that.
Great. Looks like we've got a lot of finance people here today, so thanks for participation and welcome everyone. Each of you have created a great company that has a unique place in your community and a particular niche in the beer industry. However, each of you are looking at how you can grow your business in a more and more competitive space every day. And with this growth comes complexity. So today we want to talk about a few key areas of growth, understand the impact and challenges each of those have, and then talk about the typical responses that we see in managing and getting through that growth. So we want to be able to provide a better way for you to manage that growth and to scale effectively without using spreadsheets and without running into disparate process and disparate information. So at the end of the day, we want you to focus on your brand, your story, your beer, and we want you to understand how we can help you get there through the use of NetSuite and Barrel ERP. So let's start by talking about a few areas of growth that we see in the industry. Everybody wants to grow. In each of these areas, you can choose to leverage in growth in your business. While choosing any of these is a really intimate decision that's particular to your brewery and definitive in building your brand, all of these require changes in your process and systems as you scale and add complexity to managing your business. Now more than ever, the craft beer market is looking for new tastes, new beers, and many breweries are looking for new products to grow their brand. As of the end of 2016, there are now more than 5,300 breweries in the U.S., and over 5,200 of those are craft breweries. So there's a lot more competition but it also means that you need to distinguish your brand more and more every day. So you're going to rely on new products to do that. So new markets. Besides just having products that are growing your business, you're going to look at new geographies, new distribution networks, new channels. The bottom line is you want more of your product in more places. However, the competition for those markets and space in retail and distribution channels is fierce. If you don't have a great plan and effective processes to execute this growth, you could be left out in the cold. The third category is new entities and new facilities. You may be looking at new entities, new facilities, and new business locations, whether this is a second or third brewing facility, a tap room, adding a winery or distillery entity. This can be a high area of growth and one that we see more and more clients looking at as they look to expand their business. The reasons for this type of growth, or each of these types of growth, can vary. It can be a way to improve your bottom line. It can be higher margins. It can be to self-distribute versus having a distribution partner. It can be a way to better connect with your local market. But regardless of the reason, they're all very viable paths for you to grow. But each of them brings a different focus, a different set of challenges into your business and how to effectively manage this growth and scale your business accordingly. So let's dive into the new products. When we talk about product, I bet each of you are thinking about new beers. But what about packaging? You know, looking at cans versus bottles, new sizes. Maybe you're making a bomber for a specialty season, new artwork to freshen your brand, specialty offerings, seasonals, things of that nature. All of that comes into new products. So you've got new beers, you've got new packaging. Maybe you're doing a subscription service through a Bottle of the Month Club or a Beer of the Month Club kind of thing. So all of this are areas of new product growth. When you started, you probably had one or two core products that got you off the ground. Now you're looking at all of these new, again, products and beers and packaging and subscription services as a way to grow that can become kind of that next big thing and really put you on the map even more, particularly in your local market. Again, craft breweries are known for cultivating and gaining their following in their local markets, much more so than, you know, the larger guys. New product innovation is critical for your growth, but it also introduces complexity in your business. And that starts with sales, through brewing, through distribution, through accounting. While this may be probably the most straightforward way to grow, it also provides some unforeseen impacts on your business. Now you have to manage what beer you brew, when and how, based on how much you're selling, how profitable each beer is potentially, and your distribution agreements. You have to develop the packaging that draws the most consumers, yet doesn't cost you a fortune. There's a lot more complexity across your business, again, from sales to brewing to distribution, and the more you brew and the more products you have in the market, the more that complexity allows manual processes and spreadsheets to break down, and it also provides a lot more disparate information across your business that doesn't allow you to manage that business effectively. This can negatively impact the growth of your business.
Now we're going to move on to our next polling question. What was the percentage of sales volume growth in the craft beer market in 2016? 4.5%, 5.7%, 6.2%, 8.5%. We'll give you a few minutes to answer that question.
All right. So the answer is 6.2. So the reason for that question is to show that more and more the growth is slowing down. For years, the growth was double digits. It was very high. And you're starting to see a lot more competition. You're also starting to see more competition from craft wineries, craft distilleries that are producing the products and taking that growth factor down. And also craft beer is becoming a more mature market. So as that comes, again, a lot of these challenges and a lot of these areas of growth require a lot more diligence and a lot more specificity in how you manage your business so that that growth is profitable and that growth is scalable and that growth is planful in moving your brand forward in the way that you have your vision for your business. So now let's talk about new markets. So besides just growing your products, you've got new markets that you can use to grow. This growth can take several forms. Examples of it are new geographies, again, new brewing and or distribution networks. You could do new vendors that you're going to have distribute. You can actually have self-distribution in certain markets. You can also have new distribution channels. So B2C, directly have people ordering off your website and then growing that as a direct revenue channel in your business. All of these are great ways to grow your business, and the one that's right for you is a very, again, intimate decision into what does your business look like and what do you want your business to look like as you move forward. The bottom line is you want more of your products in more places with more of opportunity for people to buy. However, in this growth, there are impacts and challenges. You can no longer walk out on the floor and see everything that's brewing. If I'm brewing a new place or I'm distributing a new place, I now don't have that eyesight visibility into, how many pallets I have over in my warehouse space, what's brewing in each tank. I need to have that information across my business, not by brewing facility, not by distribution facility, but I need to have all of that information in one place in order to run my business. So again, having a clipboard and a spreadsheet that people walk around and do lab testing, do brewing samples, do all of that, all becomes much more complicated as you move into these new markets. Your salespeople, your brand ambassadors, your distributors are no longer one person or in a single location. It's much more distributed. It's much more complex. So again, how do you have visibility into that? How do you manage that? And how do you use that information back into your business effectively in order to, again, grow and run your business on a day-in, day-out basis? It means your sales, your brewery distribution is much more complex and distributed. Again, going back to spreadsheets, most people have thrown spreadsheets at this, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't scale to the way you need it to do in order to grow your business, especially, again, as you look at new markets. You may have, again, a self-distribution channel. You may have a B2C channel that is completely different from how you go to market today. And all of that, while great for your business, does create complexity in how you run and manage that. And that goes, again, from the financial piece of it. A lot of people here were finance people. How do you account for those? How do you pay the taxes on that? How do you all of those are become more and more complex as you move through. And you just can't solve these problems with spreadsheets and paper forms that are dropped off in the office for processing at a later date. You need real-time data, you need real-time processes, and you need real-time actions that run your business. So next, let's talk about the third area of growth, which is new entities and new facilities. While the other types are common, we're seeing more and more people are growing just through creating more capacity, more ways into the markets, and that's through new entities and new facilities. There may be creating new businesses, and that could be joint ventures. It can be tap rooms, tap houses, restaurants, all of the different pieces, again, to get your product into more hands on a more frequent basis. Whether, again, it could be a new tap room. It can be a winery or distillery. We've seen a lot of people start wineries or distilleries or cideries as part of their beer business, and again, in order to have more product in the market, have more brand recognition across a broader set of consumers. So while each of these it can be a great strategy to grow your business, again, each brings a unique challenge, and you've got to solve in order to grow and run your business effectively. There's new accounting processes that go in. If I've got new entities, there's new maybe legal processes that go in if I've done it through a partnership or a joint venture. If I've taken money to create these new facilities, again, that's going to create new challenges. All of this, again, requires a much higher level of financial understanding of real-time processes, of real-time data, and be able to manage your business in a much more cohesive manner, starting all the way at sales and going through, again, your financial processes operations, your brewing process operations, your distribution process operations, and each set of disparate data, fragmented processes creates more and more liability to how you can grow your business. You have greater need for real-time data to make decisions. Again, am I brewing in one facility or the other? Am I running more and more through my tap house because I get higher margins there? All of that creates, all of this growth creates new complexities that spreadsheets no longer cut it. You need a single source of truth of data across your business, and throwing spreadsheets at it just doesn't solve it anymore. And it definitely won't deliver the results that you're looking to grow your business.
On to our next poll question. What are your growth and expansion plans in 2017? New products, new markets, new entities or facilities, or more than one of the above? So take a couple of minutes and answer that question.
Great. It looks like a lot of you are looking at multiple channels of growth. So now let's switch gears and talk about the responses that we see and the way people manage this. So I'll turn this over to Brandon, and he'll take it from here.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, hopefully this is resonating with some of the areas of growth you guys are pursuing. And this slide here is really kind of to demonstrate what we typically hear from folks like yourselves who are dealing with this growth. You kind of start at your infancy of your brewery. You're very small. You typically build all the capital goes into the infrastructure, physically the tanks, right? The production equipment, as it should. And the systems become kind of a what's quick, what's cheap, right? So you kind of start with either a home brewing app, many times an Excel file to manage just core recipes, and QuickBooks, right? We see that a lot. It's quick, it's cheap, and it can get your GL and produce your financials for investors or lending requirements. And usually shortly after that, if that would be step 1A is typically the launch of a website, many of which that come with e-commerce engines. Certainly if you are trying to draw some merchandise sales or even going into more subscription management pieces, ultimately there again, you're shipping direct to consumer, but that's also then in a silo, typically handled by someone on the back end, making sure that all the data gets into the production side and the warehousing side, et cetera. Inventory, if you're so lucky, as you start seeing that becomes more of a challenge, a lot of folks will tack on, Fishbowl or some other bolt-on of QuickBooks. And certainly these are limited, again, very siloed when you start looking at your application. The illustration here on this slide is not where people intend when they start up, but it's where they find themselves after some time of operations. Usually as Band-Aid fixes or mini apps kind of start reaching the end of their reach, so to speak, you kind of Band-Aid it together with spreadsheets. And to draw your attention a little bit to the illustration in the lower left-hand corner, then you start looking around the back office, and everyone has their versions, right? Their spreadsheets. It's very individual based. Oftentimes you've got multiple versions of Excel files floating around. V1, V2, V2 with comments, right? And what happens is collaborating like that becomes very disjointed. And ultimately, it hurts the decision making that can be made within your organization, whether that's analyzing quality test data, whether that's figuring out how to package your bright beer accordingly, the proper mix between bottle, canning, kegging. It really hurts that from a consolidation perspective. And the other thing is, even when you do get these Excel files hemmed together, whether you're doing that with cut, copy, and paste or with macros, it's outdated as soon as it's compiled. And one of the things here to point out with this kind of infrastructure is the red lines there. Sure, there is some common links between these disparate systems or Excel files, but ultimately those red lines become manual workarounds, right, keyed by individuals. So think higher labor spend to get that data where it needs to be, or it's IT integrations, right? One-time spends on IT programmers or integration kind of middleware to get these mini applications or some of these Excel files to talk to each other. It's almost like building a bridge between, kind of small applications that were really never intended to work together. And so it relates into more expenditure. So what was at first quick and easy to implement then grows, kind of breaks, becomes more frantic, more fragmented, and then you're spending more kind of bad money, I would say, either holding it together with manual workarounds, aka human capital, or integration spends that don't support upgrades in those applications or changes within those Excel files. Those bridges break as you respond. And so that's what we typically hear, a common story from folks as we talk to them and really figure out kind of where they've come from. And ultimately this leads to frustration. The increased labor and in terms of that leads you to have an army of data entry clerks or accountants, very siloed off back office folks, or again, you have IT folks on staff or contracts with contractors out there that are kind of building or hemming together those IT integrations and making sure that those are talking and maintained. Usually upgrades become painful or expensive because you're going to damage to some extent what was already there. And so what becomes quick and easy becomes complicated, especially as you're tackling these areas of growth. What we're kind of presenting here and what we'll get into more is really a way for you to kind of refocus on that growth, build your brand, right? Instead of hiring back office support staff that really, is hemming these processes together, focus on what made you grow in the meantime. What made your brand successful up to this point? It's your beer. Focus on your new product offerings, your recipes, those types of things, your brand, your story, those things that connect with consumers and will make your brand differentiate from the 5,300 breweries that are out there. Ultimately, customers, they don't see nor should they see those back office challenges. And so if you're going to hire headcount or spend money into your brand, make sure it's those things that are valuable for connecting with consumers, your beer, your brand, your story. Ultimately, by focusing your spend back in your business there, you will start getting economies of scale. What does that mean? Well, as you grow your top line revenue, as you touch more markets, as you touch more consumers, and they start buying your beer, for your brand, for your story, then ultimately your back office should be able to scale in much more an economical fashion, so that you're not growing your bottom line at the same proportion to your top line. An example of this, just to give you kind of an example, is if you have a person kind of in charge of purchasing raw materials, for example. Think your malt, your grain, your hops, your other fermentables, those types of things. It should take them marginally more time to buy 5,000 SKUs than it would 100. And so as you start building that scale of economy, better tools and more integrated platforms instead of multi-application landscapes allow you to have that scale so that new recipe doesn't force you to have to add additional headcount, right? And that's what we're talking about here. Ultimately, that reinvestment should be customer facing, because if you spend on your IT infrastructure and make it less disparate, then you'll have actually those economies of scale and be able to scale effectively. So our solution to this, well, we have NetSuite+BARREL ERP is kind of the spreadsheet killer here. Ultimately, well, what is NetSuite and what is Barrel ERP? Why is this an end-to-end solution that makes sense? As you can see here, there's lots of different layers. When you start talking enterprise resource planning software, world-class ERP software, there is multi-layers there. The first thing is NetSuite was built for the cloud, and what that means is low IT infrastructure cost, ultimately always upgraded, easy to use, and you're not having to maintain your own data warehouses on staff. Don't buy servers anymore, right? When we start seeing the different layers and we start saying, well, what does this do for you? Well, it offers you lots of different tools to run your business, okay? NetSuite was built to run in a complete end-to-end business, and ultimately that goes to finance departments or shop floors, sales team, CRM, all the way up to your finance. Ultimately, this becomes kind of an all-encompassing platform. And again, the functional breakout here in terms of it supports omni-channel commerce, ERP, financials, advanced projects, those types of things. Ultimately, we've partnered with a world-class ERP solution and bolted Barrel ERP as a suite app specifically to solve brewery challenges. And as we elevate up and you get more complicated, we talked about new entities, right? That fourth layer is one world. We can do multi-book, multi-language, multi-currency. So you have that world-class platform and certainly has been around. We leverage that by bolting Barrel ERP on it to give you that brewery-specific industry focus. You'll see that we have taken and solved the challenges that many of you guys are building those spreadsheets or building those or buying those mini applications for. We have tools for self-distribution, scheduling, and dispatching for those usually close-to-home markets you're delivering to yourself and holding the rights to. Event planning has become very big. Again, drawing more foot traffic to your tap rooms by sponsoring charitable events or concerts and those types of things. We've got event planning tools built into the app. Sales forecasting and lead management. A lot of the challenges where you go into more products or different markets, that visibility into what is forecasted or what the distributor requires coming up in 4 to 8 weeks kind of a thing. We have those integrated right in one platform. Subscription management as bottle of the month clubs and or tiered subscription becomes more prevalent as a source of recurring revenue, as well as level loading some of your finished goods. You can manage that within this one platform. Other things, keg deposits, production batch capabilities, ultimately recipe management, right? all of these tools are built on top of a world-class ERP platform specifically for your challenges, and specifically tying back to the challenges outlined by Mike in growing your business. These are all handled much more seamlessly under one roof, so to speak, so you stay out of those disjointed, lagging, and siloed information landscapes. Well, how does this work? Well, one of the things that Barrel ERP is role-based. So what does that mean? Well, you can see here we've got several different functional roles within your business, and they're all logging into one system. So at the core, it is a single version of truth. It is a unified data model that allows, without integrations, without compiling spreadsheets through copy and paste efforts, ultimately as a customer service rep places an order, as an order feeds in from your website, that sales data is captured all the way on the CEO's dashboard. It's tied into the production of the brewer, and the shipping management sees the logistics need there, how many pallets, how to schedule that via truck, etc. It's one version of the truth versus those V1, V2 versions of those spreadsheets. You start getting out of that ownership of their spreadsheet, and really it's just the system. Ultimately, what also, role-based allows for a couple other things as well. One is it allows you to specify dashboards per functional role. Okay? It's all about getting the information that's needed to run the day-to-day operations up front and center. So if you're the shipping manager, you're going to see things prevalent to shipping. How many orders have been picked? How many orders are ready to go and staged? How many pallets? How to route that via truck? How to communicate that out? What are the delivery dates so I can get that scheduled? Tie into the dispatching tools for self-distribution. That's one example. If you're the AP clerk, you're going to want to see, what is my outstanding payables? What are they aging like? What are those payables I can do and take advantage of discounted terms if we have any? Those types of things. If you're an AR clerk, how do I reduce DSOs? How do I collect money faster from our distributor accounts? Those types of things. Ultimately, the role-based model allows people to focus on their day-to-day, all while feeding the single base of truth that will roll into and touch those other areas of your business. One of the other interesting things here is with Barrel ERP, we understand that there are common roles amongst brewers. And so we've pre-built dashboards and roles to control those common permissions and accesses within the Barrel ERP Suite app. You're not starting at from scratch every single time. You're more configuring or personalizing those roles to your individual business. But you've got a starting point, which is great. You're not having to redesign the wheel upon implementing. They are flexible, but we start you halfway there, right? As we kind of go in, well, okay, if it's one unified data model and everyone's keying in real time as transactions are happening, then what does this look like? What does that feel like? Which is very different than the cut, copy, and paste world, or having integrations between kind of mini applications within that fragmented image we saw earlier. Well, we can kind of get rid of those spreadsheets and present to you within that unified data model, within a cloud-based environment, real-time visibility and mobility. And so this slide really shows you that whether it's on an iPhone or Android, doesn't matter. It's device agnostic. It's browser agnostic, whether it's Chrome or Firefox or whatever. It's all going to look and feel the same, and it's totally mobile. So think of, here's a story that a lot of people will challenge as you go into different markets, as you grow your, let's say, retail accounts. A lot of folks have brand ambassadors going in, working with the stores, looking at the backroom inventory, making sure that we're discounting stuff if it's close to expiration date, those types of things. Well, all of those backroom activities boots on the ground at those retail stores can be processed real time using the mobility of this solution. They can check real-time inventory for runs or spot replenishments. They can place sales orders for those replenishments. They can view the status of orders in progress, things that are being picked, staged, and en route to them. So they're able to ultimately have a true connection while they're remote to your unified data model, and that will roll all the way up to your financials and back down again. And so this is a good screenshot to illustrate that visibility and mobility. The other kind of story I can share with this screen is that story of the CFO. At the end of the month, oftentimes when we're working with clients and talking with them about their current processes, it may take several days or even weeks to get their month closed. There is no real-time check of total sales. It takes 2 days to lag their point-of-sale system with their e-commerce system, with their shipping system and billing system, and ultimately they're looking at 3-day stale data. And so at the end of the month, that culminates into a lack of processing time or an extended processing time for closing the month and publishing financials and look at the health of the company, whether it's total sales numbers, sales by gross profit, outstanding AP and AR, very basic financial KPI and metrics become very challenging or very delayed. And so, sometimes it's up to extreme cases. We've seen 15-day close periods for every fiscal period. And ultimately, if you get out of the copy and paste and the integrations and eliminate the lag time, we can get that down to just a couple of days. Shining some highlight here on a couple brewery-specific functionality. Certainly, there's so much here, we can't cover it all in one thing, but just to kind of highlight, here are some screenshots of what this looks. What are those tools integrated? Barrel ERP, being brewery-specific, is built within the Built for NetSuite standards. And what that means to your users is one single common platform that they don't have to log into other systems. There is no integration. It is this one and the same. And so they get to the look and the feel of those dashboards right then and there. It looks like any screen, and they're going to see those brewery-specific functionalities that we talked about. Everything to run your brewery, and ultimately focus your efforts on growing your beer, your brand, your story, and eliminating that back office headache. Take advantage of those self-distribution, scheduling, dispatching, event planning, sales forecasting, handling of keg deposits, CRV taxes, production batches, repacking operations, yeast management, label registrations, TTB reporting is obviously a big one, and all the while making sure we're getting that common per barrel equivalent that we can use as KPIs and metrics customized per that role, ultimately keeping the leaders in those functional areas focused on what matters to them the most.
Okay, on to our next polling question. What area of your business can gain the most from a brewery management solution? Sales order management, finance and accounting, brewing operations, purchasing, inventory, warehouse management.
Great. Looks like we've got a pretty broad range of areas people can feel they can find value, from the finance and accounting and purchasing, inventory, warehouse management seem to be the kind of leading categories, but great to know that everybody feels like they can get value across multiple areas of their business. So with that, again, just to kind of sum up what Brandon was talking about, really the whole idea behind getting rid of spreadsheets and focusing on your brewery, Barrel provides a single system that allows you to do that across your business. So, the core message there is you've got spreadsheets in your sales organization, you got spreadsheets in your finance organization, you've got spreadsheets in your brewery or operations, you've got spreadsheets in your distribution warehousing operations. And the idea is as you grow, that process and that structure, that V2 that Brandon was talking about, breaks. You can no longer run and operate and scale your business through a series of spreadsheets and disparate information and emailing that back and forth across your business. Again, especially as you go through the growth areas that we highlighted earlier, you need one version of the truth. You need to be able to scale effectively across all of those parts of your business and across, again, maybe even multiple entities within your business. You need to have control of your process. So again, sales affects brewing, which affects distribution. All of those pieces become more and more interrelated and much more and more dependent on each other in order to run your business smoothly. So again, today we find a lot of people try to do that through spreadsheets, through, again, having a clipboard out on the brewery floor. And that no longer becomes effective as you grow your business. You need something that's scalable. You need something that's flexible. We talked about mobile. You got more people that aren't sitting in your brewery floor. You got more people that aren't sitting in your warehouse. They're out in your markets. They're your brand ambassadors, as an example. Security. As you get more and more of that, having more of that secure to having the right people have that right access to the right information becomes more and more important. And then the last thing you want to do is go through this multiple times. You want to make a decision on your platform and have a platform that grows with you. Then as you all of a sudden you hit, growth point number 1, you're great. Now suddenly you hit growth point number 2, and you've got to go re-implement a new system because you're now at the enterprise level. And that's just, you can't do that. You can't continually invest both time and money into new systems. Find a system. That's what NetSuite and Barrel ERP are. Is it can scale with you as you grow and allow you to really focus on your business, which is not spreadsheets. So I want to real quickly talk about GABF. I think a lot of you guys will be at GABF. We'd love to see you. We're going to do an event each day, or the Thursday and Friday before the GABF. Come over, have a bite and a beer on us. We'd love to meet you face-to-face and chat with you about what Hein can do and understand more about your business. And we're going to give away free GABF passes. So if you have people that don't have a pass and or you've got one day and you want to go to day 2, come see us. We're going to have some passes to give away. And again, always good to have free food and free beer. So we'd love to see you. So there's more information there. Again, this will be distributed out to you, but we'd love to see you at GABF and love to meet you face-to-face.
We'd now like to give our attendees a chance to ask questions. So to ask a question, please submit a question via the chat box on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If we don't get your question during the webinar, our presenters will follow up with you via email after. So the first question, what's the typical implementation time for Barrel ERP?
Yeah, I'll take that one. That's a good question. Typically, something like this certainly depends on the scale of your organization, how many folks get, need training, how many systems we're replacing, that sort of thing. What we typically do, though, being that you have a pre-built starting point within some of these common functional roles and that sort of thing, we find that most organizations that go with this type of end-to-end solution can get up between 3 to 6 months on average. again, there's certainly unique challenges to every organization. And what I would like to come and throw this out there is everyone wants to say, hey, we're going to implement you quickly, certainly, but we want to do it right as well. And what that allows in our approach to delivery of the solution is really that we're not going to put you in a box and just jam data into a new platform and turn you loose. I mean, ultimately, we will be there as a partner with you to guide you through that process and ultimately get you the most workable solution, but get you self-sufficient so that when you go live 3 to 6 months later, ultimately your folks have all the tools they need to not be dependent upon additional professional services. I think Mike touched on it when there was an enterprise checkoff. A lot of the competition products make you go back to them and get a kind of a re-implementation. We try to make you self-sufficient so that you're not dependent upon IT professionals or professional service folks like our consultants. I mean, we'd love to help you in the future, but ultimately our most successful stories will be those folks that after the 6 months get up and live and ultimately are able to handle some of these new areas, new growth, et cetera, that they tackle on their own. So that's kind of our goal and a high level of how we approach delivery and the timelines associated.
Awesome. The next question I see here is, how does Barrel ERP integrate with NetSuite?
I'll take that one. It doesn't. One of the beauties of this is we've built Barrel ERP into NetSuite. So what that means to you is there is no integration. So Brandon talked about having disparate systems and having spreadsheets that you then have to load into a system or use outside of a system. All that goes away. In creating Barrel within NetSuite, we give you one single user interface, one single set of processes. Again, whether it's base NetSuite data or Barrel data, it all sits in the same system. It's all access to the same reports. There's the same roles and security. So there is no integration. And that adds a lot of value to you, both from a user experience, user interface perspective, as well as an ongoing cost of ownership and management.
Great. Next question. Where can I get some more information on the GABF event? My contact information's up. Please feel free to email me or contact me for the GABF event. Again, love to see you. We're going to be doing it both Thursday and Friday from 2 to 5, so that's before you go over to your booth at GABF. And again, have a bite and a beer on us and come over and say hi. And last question, does Barrel ERP handle TTB reporting?
Yes. We do full TTB reporting as part of the Barrel ERP product.
Any other questions that we can answer? Awesome. Okay. So to conclude, thank you so much, Mike and Brandon. That's all the time we have for questions. In just a moment, you will be directed to an online evaluation form. Please fill out the form in order to receive your CPE certificate for the course. In order to receive a certificate for CPE, you were required to be connected to the webinar for a minimum of 50 minutes with 75% polling question participation. Thank you again for attending and have a great day.